welcome to another presentation in the Coder Web training series, providing instructions in the manual application of the ICD-10 International Rules and Guidelines for Mortality Classification. This presentation examines the special instructions on the main injury index due to external causes by applying step M4. My name is Saman Gamage. I work as a senior technical advisor on medical certification and ICD under the Data for Health initiative of the CDC Foundation. And I will be your guide through this presentation along with Patricia Wood and Yusuf Hamad. This presentation and others in the series are based on the WHO mortality classification rules and guidelines found in ICD-10 Volume 2. These rules and guidelines have been the subject of numerous updates over the years, and we use the 2016 version, which is the most recent, readily available one. If you don't already have a copy of the 2016 version of Volume 2, you can find it at the link on this slide. This slide is a reminder of the ICD-10 mortality coding process. First, the mortality classification rules and guidelines in ICD-10 Volume 2 are applied to cause of death information reported on the standard International Medical Certificate of Cause of Death. Next, an ICD-10 code should be assigned to each cause of death reported. Basic coding guidelines can be found in Volume 2 of ICD-10. And finally, the mortality classification rules and guidelines found in Chapter 4 of ICD-10 Volume 2 are applied to the coded information on the death certificate. After coding all causes of death reported, the first step in choosing an underlying cause of death is to select the tentative starting point. This is done by applying selection steps SP1 to SP8 as per the rules and guidelines found in ICD-10 Volume 2, Section 4.1 to 4.2.1. These topics are covered in other presentations in this series. So if you need a refresher on it, please look at other videos. Once a tentative starting point has been selected, the next step is to check whether it is subject to modification by any other information on the certificate. The special instructions for applying the modification steps M1 to M4, are found in Volume 2 in sections 4.2.2 and 4.2.5 to 4.2.9. Step M4. Step M4, special instructions are available in section 4.2 of Volume 2 under 4 main areas. This means step M4 is applicable for 4.2.6, special instructions on main injury in death from external causes, 4.2.7, special instructions on poisoning by drugs, medicaments, and biological substances, 4.2.8, special instructions on maternal mortality, and 4.2.9, special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. These 4 topics will be discussed in 4 separate videos. Last month, we discussed the special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. Today, we discuss special instructions on the main injury in death from external causes. Let's discuss the special instructions on the main injury in death from external causes. These instructions are available in Volume 2 of ICD-10 in section 4.2.6. If the underlying cause you arrived at by applying the selection and modification rules in steps SP1 to SP8 and steps M1 to M3 is an external cause, code the external cause of the injury or poisoning as the underlying cause of death. In addition to the underlying cause from Chapter 20, external causes of morbidity and mortality, also code a main injury from Chapter 19. And remember, the nature of injury codes from Chapter 19, this means codes S00 to T98, are not valid for underlying cause. Therefore, The points to remember are: code the external cause as the underlying cause, code the main injury from chapter 19, and don't forget, injury codes are not valid as underlying cause. To explain external cause and nature of injury codes again, when coding deaths due to accidents, violence, and other external causes, two types of codes are discussed. Number one, nature of injury codes from chapter 19. The type of injury, poisoning, example, fracture, laceration, burn, open wound, etc. And number two, external cause code from chapter 20, the circumstances of the accident or violence. For example, fall from a height, being knocked down by a car, assault with a knife. External cause code from chapter 20 is the underlying cause of death. Further explaining the external cause concept, the use of chapter 20 codes V01 to Y98 permits the classification of environmental events, circumstances, and conditions as the cause of injury, poisoning, and other adverse effects. In mortality coding, for the deaths caused by accidents or violence, the external cause will always be the underlying cause. The circumstance of accident or violence is known as the external cause of death. Motor vehicle accident, fall from a height, gunshot injury, suicide by hanging, homicide are some examples. So let's go through some other examples of external cause. Pedestrian hit by motor car on traffic way, car occupant injured in collision with pickup truck, pedal cyclist injured in collision with a car on a public highway, car occupant injured in collision with a tree on a public highway, fall from a coconut tree, assault with a knife, exposure to wildfire. To assign the external cause, refer to the external cause section or section 2 of the alphabetical index, volume 3. And here you see the external cause of injury section, which is section 2 of alphabetic index. Let's go through the instructions under M4. If the underlying cause is in chapter 20, external cause of morbidity and mortality, also select a main injury. See the instructions in section 4.2.6 of volume 2, special instructions on main injury in deaths from external causes. ICD 10 volume 2, section 4.2.6 provides 4 special instructions on selecting the main injury in deaths from external causes. They are numbered A, B, C, and D. Let's go through the instruction A. When injuries reported include superficial and trivial injuries, whether in part 1 or part 2, select the main injury as if the superficial or trivial injury had not been reported. ICD 10 2016 volume 2 annexure 7.4 provides a list of conditions unlikely to cause death. So those are the trivial conditions unlikely to cause death. Coders can refer to annexure 7.4 to know about trivial conditions. Let's go through an example. This is the first example under 4.2.6, section A. Part 1A, contusion of arm, T11.0, fracture of skull, S02.9. Line 1B, fall from scaffolding, W12. Contusion of arm is a trivial injury and it is unlikely to cause death. However, fracture of skull is a severe injury and it is likely to cause death. So if you check the Annexure 7.4 list of conditions unlikely to cause death, you can find T11.0 is listed as superficial injury of upper limb level unspecified as a condition unlikely to cause death. In this example, code underlying force to W12, fall on and from scaffolding, rule SP3, starting point rule 3, and this will be your underlying force. Disregard contusion of the arm T11.0 as it is in Annexure 7.4 list of conditions unlikely to cause death. So this is according to the section 4.2.6 instruction A. As the main injury, code fracture of the skull S0 2.9, fracture of skull and facial bones part unspecified. Therefore, for this example, underlying cause of death is W12, fall on and from scaffolding. Main injury is S0 2.9, fracture of skull and facial bones, part unspecified. Let's study the special instruction B under the section 4.2.6. When serious, non-superficial and non-trivial injuries are reported in both part 1 and part 2, select the main injury from part 1. This applies even when the injuries mentioned in part 2 have a higher rank in Annex 7.7 of Volume 2, priority ranking of ICD-10 nature of injury codes than the injuries mentioned in part 1. Talking about Annex 7.7 priority ranking of nature of injury codes, this is available in Volume 2 of ICD-10 and provides a list of priority ranking of the nature of injury codes. In the ranking list, the highest rank is 1, the lowest rank is 6. As you all can see here, the lowest rank is 6 and the highest rank is 1. So this is an image of priority ranking of ICD-10 nature of injury codes. Let's go through an example under this. Part 1A, multiple thoracic injuries, S29.7. Part 1B, car driver collision with bus, V44.5. Part 2, brain injuries, S06.9. ST3 selects the car driver injured in collision with the bus as the underlying cause of death. The code is V44.5. Going through the injuries, you can see multiple thoracic injuries are having a lower rank than the brain injuries, which is in a higher rank in the Annexure 7.7 injury ranks. Unspecified brain injury, S06.9, has a higher rank than multiple injuries of thorax, S29.7. But multiple injuries of the thorax are mentioned in part 1 and take precedence over the injuries mentioned in part 2. As the main injury code S29.7, multiple injuries of thorax, section 4.2.6, instruction B, and the underlying cause of death is V44.5, car driver injured in collision with the bus. Main injury is S29.7, multiple injuries of the thorax. This is a special instruction C under section 4.2.6 on the main injury in deaths from external causes. When more than one serious injury is reported in the relevant part of the certificate, select the main injury according to Annex 7.7 priority ranking of ICD-10 nature of injury codes. Note that 1 is the highest priority rank and that 6 is lowest. Let's go through this example. 1A, multiple thoracic injuries, S29.7, and brain injuries, S06.9. 1B, car driver collision with bus, V44.5. SP3 selects the car driver injured in a collision with the bus as the underlying cause of death. Therefore, the underlying cause of death is V44.5. When you check the 7.7 annexure priority ranking of ICD-10 nature of injury codes, you will notice brain injury S06.9 rank is 2, and for thoracic injury rank is 3. As the main injury, code brain injury S06.9, intracranial injury unspecified, which has a higher rank on the priority list than multiple injuries of thorax S29.7. For this example, the underlying cause of death is B44.5, car driver injured in a collision with the bus. Main injury is S06.9, brain injuries. Let's move on to the section D of instructions. When more than one of the serious injuries reported in the relevant part of the certificate have the same and highest rank, select the first mention of these injuries. However, prefer a specific injury over an injury from the block T00 to T07, injuries involving multiple body regions with the same priority rank. Let's go through an example. Part 1A, multiple injuries, T07, and traumatic subdural hemorrhage, S06.5. 1B, car driver collision with bus, V44.5. SP3 selects the car driver injured in a collision with the bus as the underlying cause of death, V44.5. Multiple injuries, T07, and traumatic subdural hemorrhage, S06.5, have the same rank on the priority list. Annex 7.7, subdural hemorrhage is in rank 2, and multiple injuries are also ranked 2. So they are on the same rank. But a specific injury takes precedence over an injury from the block T00 to T07, injuries involving multiple body regions. Therefore, as the main injury, code S06.5, traumatic subdural hemorrhage. In this example, the underlying cause of death is V44.5, a car driver injured in a collision with the bus. Main injury code is S06.5, traumatic subdural hemorrhage. This is the last example under this section. As you know, M4, step M4 is applicable for special instructions on main injury deaths from external causes, special instructions on poisoning by drugs, medicaments, and biological substances, special instructions on maternal mortality, and special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures. So far, we have discussed section 4.2.9, special instructions on surgery and other medical procedures, and section 4.2.6, special instructions on main injury in deaths from external causes. In the next video, we will discuss the special instruction on poisoning by drugs, medicaments, and biological substances. I hope this video was useful. See you next time. Thank you.